Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chlorinated Thoughts. Today, I'm joined with Regan Smith.
Hi.
So, we literally just recorded the intro, and I'm gonna insert that because it was a really good part of the podcast. We are currently in my room, and Reagan is leaving to Texas in like how many days?
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
So I was like, we have to do something before you leave. I've known you now for a year, and oh my god, I wanna like say the story of like how like the first time I met you. We had like a neon party. It was like our freshman orientation, like first week of parties. And I remember were in like colors, like groups of colors, and I think I was purple, and you were purple too.
We were in
Yes.
in the girls' backyard.
Yes. Slip and slide, and I was like, I don't know how I introduced myself, but I was like, oh hi, I'm Leah, like blah blah, and then we took like a group picture, and you were next to me, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is crazy. And I remember you being so sweet. Like I don't even know what I was expecting, but I was so excited to like know about like how all the pros are, and I know Dennis was too.
Yeah.
Like it's like we were just like curious on how you guys are, even though you guys are like also normal people.
But like as a human.
As a human,
valid.
you know, I wanted to give you the opportunity and to give everyone the opportunity to get to know you more, like as a person and like your personality and stuff. But I'm gonna give the stage back to you when you responded to what I was saying.
Oh yeah. So Leah was saying she wanted to like give me the opportunity to talk about myself as a person and like not just a swimmer. And I was saying how much I like that idea because I feel like a lot of podcasts just ask like the same questions over and over. And a lot of people like you and Dennis were just saying they want to know about like the professional swimmers outside of the sport and like get to know them as people and like understand like the way that their mind works and like what their hobbies and interests are, like their different stories in their lives. And I think those are so much more entertaining to watch. I watched a bit of your episode with Liv and I really loved that. It looked like she enjoyed it so much too. So I'm really
Thank you.
excited.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Anyways,
before we highlight like your achievements, because I think that's like a big part of who you are, I want you to introduce yourself to us as like Reagan, the person, as if swimming was never a thing really in your life.
oh, wow. Okay. That I feel like is a really good question because if you had asked me that question even like a year ago,
Yeah.
even like 8 months ago, I would have been like, I don't know. I didn't know who I was without the sport and I like lacked so much balance in my life. Just because I was putting all of my eggs into the basket of swimming. Like that's what brought me happiness. That's what made me feel like I was worth something. That's what gave me confidence. That's where all of my friends were.
Yeah.
That's just what I spent all my time doing. And I reached a point last year, and you can relate to this, but like when I had mono and I was at like a really low point in my life where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? Like, what am I without swimming because I couldn't train at all?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, how do I fill my time? I feel like I'm going nuts right now. And like, I don't have anything to like fill my cup outside of swimming. And then I kind of had this like realization moment where I was like, I'm gonna retire from this sport eventually, as we all are. And
I thought you were like, I want to quit. I was like, what?
we had those moments too, right? Oh my gosh, Mono
Yeah.
really knocked us down. But yeah, I was like, someday I'm gonna retire from swimming, and I don't want to be lost when I'm retired.
Yeah.
Whether I retire when I'm 23 or when I'm 30. Like, I just want to like figure myself out, and part of that comes naturally. I feel like as you get older, you learn more things about yourself, and you learn like your hobbies and interests. But I think I really took a lot of like time and attention to think about like what I like to do, and I'm still like figuring that out. I mean, I'm 22 and I know you guys are younger than me, but I still feel like I'm figuring myself out like better and better every single day. But in this past year, I've like developed a super strong love of things like reading and binge watching different TV episodes. When I first moved away from my parents, I was so excited to get space from them, I think. And I love my parents so much, but I like wasn't as good about like calling home and like, you know, like keeping my like keeping relationships strong. Yeah, and I found that I'm such a like community and relationship driven person. And so I love like nurturing the relationships that I have with my family members, my closest friends. I try to keep in really good touch with even my long distance friends. And Yeah, I feel like I'm still really figuring out a lot of things about myself and my personality and what makes me tick, but I think that's like the first part, like the first step. Because when I was listening to Liv's intro, she's now 30 years old, and so she has so much more life experience than us.
Yeah.
And I feel like she took us through this like whole spiritual journey of like her like personal development and like the person that she's become. And I'm so excited for that because like, gosh, wait, are you 19 or 20?
I'm gonna be 20 in like 10 days.
Okay, yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have 10 years to be in her spot. And it's just like, think about the person that you're going to be in a decade from now. Like, you're going to have like evolved and grown so much and have so many new interests and hobbies. And so, I've changed so much like in this past year, like trying to figure myself out, but I also know that I have like so much more to do, which I'm very excited about. And so I think I just like scratched the tip of the iceberg in this past year, but I'm definitely like less of a swimming focused person now than I used to be. And thank God, because I think it's helped my swimming a lot. And it's helped my like mental relationship with the sport and with myself a lot too. Yes, you swim faster because you're less concerned about it, and like I don't know, it's just been really great for me overall. I've just been like happier.
Even for me, mono was like a big like monumental moment of like, okay, maybe swimming is like not, it's like maybe it's not for me, and maybe it's not what I want it to be for. It's like I don't want it to be for me. That's how, like, that's when I started my podcast, I think like 2 years ago. But when I got mono, it was like, okay, I want to like actually do this because it's like something that I'm also passionate about. And like it gives me the same feeling that like swimming used to give me. I feel like before I was really passionate about swimming, like putting everything in it, like, you know, I want to be this and this. But then slowly, like as you change as a person, sometimes that feeling goes away, and it's not a bad thing, you know. Some like as you grow, what you want changes. And I think also just coming to America and like experiencing like everything else that life has to offer. And yeah, I think mono really puts into perspective for everyone, like because you know we have a few people on our team that got mono, so it's like really cool to see that like we can learn something good from this and not just be like, okay, this was bad, and like keep sulking on the fact that it was bad, you know.
Completely. I'm such a firm believer, and I'm glad that you went through it too, so you really understand it. Like the crappier of a situation that you go through, like the better you're gonna be when you come out of it. Like it's so cliche, but the saying of like you have to like go through the rain to get the rainbow or whatever, it's so true. And I've been thinking about it so much for the past like 4 months, because I've been so happy these past 4 months after having like a really difficult like first 8-9 months of 2024. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, wow, I went through all of those like really hard things to now be in such a good place in my life. So that's like been really nice to realize like all the good we did get out of it, even though we went through a lot like during mono. And then also I'll add like you starting this podcast and it being an outlet for you. I think another thing that became an outlet for me was like I learned that I really love to talk about like my story and like I don't know, like share the things that I've been through, because a lot of people find it really relatable. Yeah. And I used to hate public speaking and like getting up in front of others and like talking about myself or like doing things in school. Like I couldn't do it. I'd like sweat and shake and like freak out. And I've kind of like mostly over this past year developed a really strong love and appreciation for it. And so now I'm like in a couple of weeks even, I'm going to Miami and doing this like speaker event where I'm like getting up in front of like a whole bunch of people and like talking about myself basically for like 50 minutes. And high school me and even like a year or two ago me would have really struggled with the idea of that, but now I really look forward to it. And I think a lot of it is because of like everything that I went through this past year and like development stuff. So yeah, I don't know, it all ends up being like really good learning experiences. But
and that's also like taking steps forward to like what your future could look like when you're like done swimming.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah, it's like a career path after.
Take any opportunity, like because you never know what's gonna happen. So I want to rewind a little back to little Regan. So I want to just like I want to know how you started to swim, like your journey with that, and like how your aspirations changed towards the sport to now, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into swimming probably like y'all too. My parents put me in swimming lessons at like a really young age just to like be water safe. And then I have a sister who's 5 years older than me, And so I'm the baby of the family, and I always like wanted to do whatever she did and like
Oh,
be-
that's so me too.
yeah, it's such like a younger sibling vibe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so she started competitive swimming when she was like 12 or something, and so I was 7. I was in 2nd grade, and I was like, I want to do this too, and I begged my parents, and then they finally let me do it. And at my very first swimming competition, I had like 5 events, and I won all of them. And at that age, I loved praise. I loved winning. Like, I loved being the best at something. Like, it's an addicting feeling, right? Like,
It is, yeah.
When you're a kid, you love it when people are like, wow, you're really good. Like, wow, good job. And so that was super addicting for me. And I was better at swimming than I'd ever been at, like, soccer and, like, gymnastics. I did those things. Piano, I hated. And so swimming, like, made sense to me. I liked it, and I was really good at it. And so, I don't know, it stuck with me right away just because I liked being good at something.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
And I hate to say it too, because obviously I've worked very hard since then, but I was good at it without having to work very hard at it. And that's like the best case scenario, right? Especially when you're a little kid, you're just like, sweet, like this is easy and like
Yeah.
I'm getting praised for it. Like that feels great. And obviously, yeah, that's changed and evolved a lot since 7-year-old me. But yeah, that's how I got my start.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's sweet, but it's like, oh gosh, like that's not the right reason.
Oh my gosh. I think
normal.
with the 7-year-old brain,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my god, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's still me now. Like, I had a good practice today, and I'm like, okay, like,
You feel so great.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like,
awesome.
it's like,
It just motivates you.
Yes.
it definitely like motivates you. And I think like, if you're good at something, you're gonna keep doing it. And most of the time, if you're not very good at something, you're gonna like eventually stop doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Sadly, but that's when like, you know, grit and stuff like that come into place.
Definitely.
But so I remember watching your reaction when you broke your first world record when you were 17.
Yeah.
And like I remember you being like so surprised, being like, oh my god, like I can't believe I just did this.
Yeah.
And like I have a really relatable feeling to when I had like my first huge meet, and I got I swam in the Middle East, so no one like freaking knew about me at all. And I was like, how the hell did I just do this? And I was so shocked too. Obviously yours is on a different level. You broke a world
but the
record.
feeling's the exact same, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. The feeling
Yeah.
is like doing something like that's at the time you would think is like above you, or like, you know, more than you thought you were capable of, is like crazy. And I want to get into it, like why were you so shocked in the first place? Because I don't know that like part of, you know, your journey. And what did you feel after that?
Yeah. Okay. So I was so shocked because I never believed in myself. I never had like any confidence whatsoever.
Wait, why?
I don't know. And it's something that I still struggle with to this day. Like even like last week when I was supposed to do the 200 free off the blocks with the men, I was like so excited for it all week, and then day of I was like, oh no, like what if I'm like you know what I mean? It's just so easy to like not believe in yourself even though you have like all the tools in your toolbox to be great. Like it just sucks. And so that takes a lot of like mental training and whatever to improve upon that, and I have since then. But yeah, I remember the night before the 200 backstroke, I was sitting in my like little dorm apartment whatever in South Korea, and I was watching Missy Franklin's 200 backstroke world record from London. Literally like crazy that I did that, like what a funny coincidence. But I was watching her, and I just remember being like kind of sad and disappointed because I truly never thought that I would do something like what Missy did. And because Missy's a name that I don't think anyone will ever forget in the sport of swimming, right? Like she has solidified herself as like a legend. Like people in swimming know who Missy Franklin is. And I so desperately wanted to like leave my mark on the sport and like be someone that people could remember. And I just remember sitting in bed that night being like, I don't think I have that in me. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna do that. Like, I just don't think I'm ever gonna be good enough to do that.
Ooh, why it's giving me like goosebumps.
I know, it's a crazy story because it's like, how ironic is that? But
yeah,
because my first ever world championships 2 years prior, I was 15 years old and I got 8th place in the final, and I like added a second and a half, and
that's still like super good. But
yeah, I had so much to be proud of, but I just remember like being so disappointed because like seeing like last place next to your name like doesn't feel good, right?
No, yeah.
Especially when you're competing for your country, like there's like a different level of whatever. And so I was thinking about that when I was watching Missy's race. I was like, oh gosh, like I got last place the last time that I was at Worlds swimming this event. Like, what if the same thing happens? Like, what if I fail twice? Like, how embarrassing is that going to be for me? Like, I'm never going to amount to it. Like, literally just
spiraling.
Yeah, spiraling and being so mean to myself, like for no reason. Because like if I was talking to either of you guys, I would just be like, here's all the ways that you guys are so amazing and like have the talent, the ability, and you've worked so hard. Like your goals are within your reach. So then it's like, why is it when you're talking to yourself that you're so mean to yourself? Like you're someone that you wouldn't want to be friends with. And when you're speaking to yourself,
it's like I would never say that to my friend.
Exactly, and it's terrible. And so and then
Dennis, you can't do this.
Exactly. It's like you never say it to each other, so why do you say it to you? I just think it's awful, but I did that. Everyone does that.
Yeah.
And then the next day rolls around, I swim prelims, I go best time by half a second, and it was the perfect storm. Like I swear I didn't even break a sweat in the prelim, and I was like, well, geez, that was easy. Like, okay, wow. And then I remember that was back when I read Swim comments, and I remember all the commenters were like, she just blew it. She went super fast in the morning, and she's gonna add at night. Like that's what people. Yeah, and they were like, well, that's what people like her do. And it was my fault for reading BS like that. Like I don't do that anymore, and I don't recommend doing that. But that's what people were assuming. And when you're 17, you're like, they're right. Like, that is what's going to happen. Like, I gave up everything in the morning and, like, oh, God. And so I came into that semifinal.
Meanwhile, they're sitting on their, like, couch.
I know. That's what's terrible, too. But so then I walk into that semifinal scared out of my mind. Literally just, like, please make the final, Regan. Like, don't mess up. Miss the final. Like, I literally thought I was going to miss the final. And, like, why? I was the top seed by, like, a second. Like, I could have gone the exact same time that I went in prelims and I would have been fine. Like, I just had no faith in myself. Yeah. And then that race, I have never had a 200 backstroke feel like that ever again.
Was it bad?
No, so easy. Isn't that insane? But sometimes I feel like that happens. When you go your best time, sometimes it feels the easiest. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Sometimes that happens. Yes, like, you're just cruising and, like, you could go forever. So I remember finishing that 200 backstroke, it felt like I could have kept going. Like, it was just the strongest, so crazy and frustrating.
Yeah.
And so then, I touched the wall, and I still remember I was wearing, like, Vanquishers, like, the kind of goggles, and they were really foggy, and so I could barely see, but I saw 2:03:35, and I was like, literally, my jaw just dropped right away, because I was like, there's, like, ain't no way that just happened. Like, literally ain't no way. Like, it, like, mind blank, absolutely shocked. And then I was just like, wow, like, I did that. That is like, insane.
That was you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't anyone. I mean, I guess the coaches, like, that trained you, but it was you that did it.
Yeah, just absolute shock. And, like, knowing that that's the way that I felt the 24 hours leading up to that, it is just like, well, no wonder I, like, reacted like that, just because I was, like,
so surprised.
Was it Missy's world record?
Yeah, it was Missy's world record. Her world record was like 2:04:06, I think, and so I knew that no one had ever been under 2:04. And so then, when I saw the 2:03, I was like, what? Like, like, pure shock. Yeah, so that was my thought process.
That's crazy. Yeah. That is so, like, it's crazy that, like, you didn't even, because I was like, okay, maybe that's you being in the flow, you know what I mean? But it's mentally, it seems like you weren't, like, you didn't believe in yourself. So it's like, I guess, like, maybe so, like, the accumulation of, like, hard work and everything came into, like, that moment. And wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's like, I always had the talent and I worked so hard, but there was nothing up here that was working in my favor. Yeah. So it was just sad. Yeah.
I remember when I, like, achieved, like, this big thing that made me realize, okay,
what was the big thing?
Oh.
You have to be specific.
There was this meet. Dennis was there. Okay. We had the European Youth Olympic Festival, and it was, like, a big thing for me because I wasn't in the national team. Like, I was just, like, swimming and loving. Yeah, we didn't know each other. Yeah. Okay. And and I just came from Kuwait. In Kuwait, we swam, like, once a day. I would be, like, chilling. You know, it wasn't like I just loved swimming. And for the summer, I would come back to Hungary and I would train with my Hungarian coach more and stuff. And then when we went to the meet, I remember my mom told me, she was like, oh yeah, I remember like, you know, saying, like, waving goodbye to you when you guys were going on the bus. And I remember telling your dad that, like, oh, like, all these other girls are gonna get medals and, like, I don't think Leah will get one.
Oh, help.
Because I just didn't have that much experience.
Valid. Okay. Oh,
and then,
poor girl.
And then she was like, yeah, I hope like Leah doesn't become that upset. And then we went and I got into the final, like same feeling in the 4 a.m. I got into the final. I swam like a best time by like a lot, like 4 seconds maybe.
Yay.
And then I went into the final and I placed second and I like dropped like 4 seconds.
Let's go. Oh, from
And-
prelims too.
From prelims,
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
the
okay.
same day. I was like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And then, yeah, so after that, I remember just putting so many expectations on myself. Like, I don't know why. I just thought, okay, now I'm worth this. So I have to, if I want to be a good person and like have myself be like, feel like I'm worthy of being like, I don't know, a good person, I need to keep up this standard. So I want to ask, did you feel the same way? I guess you did.
Yes, completely. Yeah, it's like once you do something, then there's the expectation and the standard, right? And the pressure, which is, it's dumb because yes, that exists, but it's like, well, you still have that talent within you. Like all you did was just post a time, like, but it does stink that like what it does to you psychologically. It's like, oh my gosh, I did that once. Now I have to back it up. Like, what if I can't repeat what I've done? Even though logically it's like you did it once. What's changed? You're still continuing to work hard. You're getting older and stronger and faster. Like, yeah, you're going to continue to go faster, but literally everything that stops people short is just up here. Like that is short of a physical injury, that's why people get slower like after they do something incredible. And it's just so frustrating and it's so hard to master. I think it's the hardest thing, the mental game, but it's the most important part. So yeah.
How did you like work yourself out of that? Like yeah, I guess because you mentioned in other interviews that it made you, I don't know if did it make your performance like decrease or how did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had the worst relationship with the 200 backstroke for a solid 3 years, I'd say. And so I did that at World Championships the summer of 2019. Then the first time I was supposed to swim the 200 backstroke long course was at Winter Nationals in December of that same year. So like 5 months later. And I pulled out of it because I was too scared to even do it. I was like, I'm just going to do the 100 backstroke and the 200 fly and like the 400 free I entered into. And yeah, I didn't even do it because I was terrified.
Yeah.
And then 2020 hits and I did the 200 backstroke at like a couple tier pro series. And I was like getting my groove back a little bit. Like at least I was competing it and I was posting decent times and I was like getting over my fear. And then COVID hits and I can't like train or do anything for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So basically I was just sitting on that fear of like, okay, I'm the current world record holder. The Olympics are supposed to be this summer and I'm overwhelmingly favored to win gold in that as like a fresh 18-year-old. Like that was a lot for me to deal with. Yeah. And then the Olympics get postponed. And so we just have another 12 months of like waiting. And that those entire 12 months, I was the gold medal favorite in the 100 and 200 backstroke. And I wasn't training. I wasn't motivated. I didn't feel good about backstroke. I was terrified to compete backstroke. And so just letting all those negative feelings fester over that entire pandemic when I couldn't compete, it grew and grew and grew. And I couldn't let any of it out because I couldn't compete because COVID was happening. And so it just turned into this like horrific thing. And then at the summer of the Tokyo Olympics in 2021 at the Olympic trials, then I don't even make the Olympic team in the 200 backstroke. I got third and you need top 2. And that was like so devastating, but it was just a product of like I was terrified. Like sitting behind the blocks, it's normal to feel nervous, right? And like have some self-doubt and whatever, but ultimately like most of the time when you're behind the blocks, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but like, you know what, I'm going to step up to the plate and like do this because I have to. And I had nothing but fear behind the blocks doing the 200 back at Olympic trials. And so then, couldn't compete at the Olympics. And then I spent that whole next year kind of avoiding the 200 backstroke and like kind of getting my bearings with it. But then I think really the person in the place that helped me get over it was Tempe and Bob. Aww. Yeah, I know. It's so silly and heartwarming. But yeah, it was the training that I was doing, the people that I was with. I think everyone here, the men and the women, I think they did a really good job of just like taking whatever was thrown at them in practice and just like doing it fearlessly, at least from the outside looking in. Like, I know we all look at the practices sometimes and we're like, I want to cry right now, and sometimes we do cry, like, totally valid, it happens, but ultimately you do it and you know it's going to make you better. And I think I really fed off of that energy from everyone here, and I learned from them a lot. I learned like about the way that they carried themselves and the way that they mentally approach practices and meets, and then I learned a lot from that. And then same with Bob. And so then I think that's where I was able to get back to a place where, to be blunt, I still get by far the most nervous for the 200 backstroke, and I sometimes still like don't want to compete it. Like, I think
that's totally normal.
Yeah,
though.
I think I'll always struggle with that, but it's so much better than it was, and I think I'm getting better every time too, which is great. But such a long process, but I know like how common it is. I feel like people get mental blocks all the time in a bunch of different sports and like careers. So
I think it's really important to highlight that, because I remember whenever I was going through tough times, I would always think about like have people that have already achieved like amazing things, have they gone through this as well? You know? And
the answer is always yes.
The answer is yes, but for some reason we just obviously
you feel so alone.
Yeah, you're like, oh my god, like I'm the only person that's feeling this. Like, no girl, sorry, you're not. So I want to talk about ASU a little. What were your top now that kind of, I'm not saying it's fully closed chapter, but it's coming to like a gradual end, sadly, very sadly, but what have been your like top moments at ASU that you like will like never forget?
I think a lot of it is like the bonding that I've done with the women's team, because like I always wanted a college experience and I never really got one. Like, I had my 1 year at Stanford and I made a couple of friends there, but I never really opened myself up to fully enjoying Stanford. Like, part of it was it wasn't the right fit for me, but the other part of it was like I wasn't willing to like fully enjoy it.
Wait, if you don't mind elaborating, like why did you feel like you couldn't do that?
I don't know. I just don't think, looking back on it, I didn't realize it in the moment, but I think now, like where I'm at with my life now, looking back, I think I was like, I had such a closed off mindset about the way that I approached swimming. I couldn't accept like any other opinions about like training or anything. And then with college, I struggled with like the dormitory system there, because Stanford really loves you to like branch out and like not just hang out with people on the swim team. Like they stick you I mean, I agree, honestly. I see what they're doing now in hindsight, but like you have to be with a random roommate your freshman year. Like you can't.
That's hard.
It's hard. Wake up early and go to bed early. It just wasn't set up for success for me and what I needed, but all of the girls in my class adore Stanford, like who I went in with. So it wasn't for me, but it is for some people. But also I completely went into it being like, this isn't gonna go well. So I didn't even really give it a chance, honestly.
So then why did you end up like committing to Stanford in the first place?
Because it was my dream, and so I thought it was gonna be really great. Like I put it on a pedestal. I was like, this is gonna be amazing. I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. I don't know why. And so I was like, Stanford has like a great pre-med program, whatever, and like I love the legacy that Stanford had. Yeah, I mean,
like prestigious.
Yeah, so prestigious, a very respectable program that Greg's had going there for a very long time. And so, yeah, it was what I wanted to do. And then literally, like, the week I got there, I was like, I can tell this is not going to end well. And I was also doing long distance with my boyfriend for the first time. And, like, that in retrospect, too, like, being 19 years old and, like, basically just like wanting to get married, I was just closing myself off from so many opportunities and fun. And so then I was just like holed up in my dorm room for 9 months being like, I can't wait to graduate and get married and just like move on with my life. And it's like, yeah, it's like that's what I thought that I wanted, but and looking back, it's like all that was doing was just like grossly holding me back. And so I think
now you know what you want.
And so I think that like, and obviously I can't redo anything, but if I'd been a freshman knowing what I know now, I think I would still be at Stanford, honestly. I think I would have made it work and I would have whatever. But I'm also very glad that I didn't stay. Like, I'm glad that that's not the way that it worked, and I learned everything this way, because I'm so glad that I'm at ASU and this is a much better fit for me anyways, in my opinion. Even if I went to Stanford knowing what I know now, like if that makes sense. So yeah, that's why. But yeah, I then learned everything since being here.
Wait, do you have any more highlights?
Oh crap! Oh my gosh.
It's okay, I started that tangent.
I hate to be so vague, but I really do think like the welcome weeks stand out so much to me. 2023 and 2024 welcome week. Like I just have so much fun feeling like I'm a part of the team. And so then like all I ever wanted was to like swim collegiately, I think with ASU too. After like 6 months I was like, crap, like I wish I'd done this from the get-go. And so I just love like being at practice with the girls team too. Welcome week so great. Getting to go to like women's team events even though I'm not on the team, like the fact that y'all invite me is so sweet. I think something that stands out above everything else is when y'all did the sign exchanges, like the wooden signs that everyone
you
makes
go
for each
on.
other, and I got one and I started to cry.
That
Because
was
Zoe
so
made me
cute. I remember
one.
that was so cute.
Yeah. So now I have it hanging up in my apartment in Austin. So I'll see that in 3 days. So yeah, no, it's just like the fact that everyone here welcomed me in like with such open arms was so sweet. So yeah, it's felt more like a family than anything else ever has.
Everyone has their people,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and I think even now that like we have like a new girl coming in January, like I think everyone is gonna do their best to welcome her.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think the thing you said about how everyone here goes to practices and is like fearless, I think that stood out to me as well, especially when Bob was here, that like Bob instilled this like feeling of like don't be scared of like what's gonna happen, and like obviously he was like, you know, strict about things, but I think that's what like as he was here, I felt like before I got mono, I felt like I was getting like shaped into like steel, you know, like I'm like, okay, everything I do I know I can do because like Bob has made us like, you know, like warm down 2K after like every dual meet, like do so many events, and like I don't know, I feel like the whole system was really like in place to make you fearless, and I think that's rare.
So it was like Saturday 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. practice, right? And like Logan gave us a set. It was like 1500 like time.
When was
in long
this?
course meters. Yeah,
was
practice
in,
at 8 a.m.
It was in like
Yeah.
January or something.
Yeah.
I did it
With mono.
Yeah, I think it was like January.
end of January maybe.
Yeah, February, yeah. And then like Logan gives us the set and we're like, oh my god, like it's 6 a.m. and we have to do 1500 tests
And
with
we had
text
20
to it.
like
15 minutes to warm up. And then we started our 1500 at like 6:23 a.m. We had to do it. It was like, oh my god. And it just like made us tougher. Like every situation that we like came through and like we're like ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Like we're like prepared, I guess.
Yeah. I think now that like, do you want to stay here? Yeah. This is Dennis. She's my roommate. And she's a badass swimmer too. So I think anything that like, now I talk to Dennis about it, I'm like, anything that Logan gives us, I know we can do because of what we've done before.
Oh,
you know?
Also, he was with like Bob too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His sets are very similar to Bob's, I think, for sure.
I want to move on to like more your partnerships that you've done with like a lot of brands, because like I know you did the local eclectic, you did the Speedo, like everything with Speedo, I guess, right? Okay, what was the first partnership that you did? Like I think that's super cool that like I feel like it feels probably super cool to have brands be like, oh, do you want to like partner with us and stuff like that. How did that happen for you?
Yeah. So, well, it started back when I broke the world record in 2019. So I was 17, and that was before like NIL was a thing. And so I had the decision of like, because like swimming brands were offering me to like be a part of their whatever and like go pro and like forgo college. And so that was the first time that I got like a taste of it, where I was like, I'd been competing in nothing but Speedo for my whole life. So I knew that if I was going to partner with a swim brand, it was going to be Speedo. And I think we were like considering that. It was in the works. I knew they were interested in me, but ultimately we decided like, I want to go to Stanford. I just committed to Stanford. And so then didn't do it. And so then I signed with Speedo finally after the Tokyo Olympics when all the NIL stuff happened. So I could still go to Stanford, but then like I signed with Speedo. And so that was my first deal. So I was 19 and I signed like a 4-year like sponsorship with them. And so I guess it was only 3 years because the quad was shortened. Yeah. But it was 2022, 2023, and 2024. So between the Tokyo Olympics and the Paris Olympics. And that was just like, I don't know, very cool. But it's like when you're going through it, it's hard to like think about how cool it is because
Yeah.
it's just like your life,
you
you know what I
realize it.
mean? Yeah, and so then like if you take a second to reflect, you're like, whoa, like when I was a kid growing up, like I envied like Speedo swimmers. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And so it's like the era when like Michael Phelps and Ryan Lochte and Missy Franklin and all these, I mean, Nathan Adrian, all these people were Speedo, and I like idolized those athletes, and I was like, wait, like I guess I'm the equivalent of that to like the next generation of like young age group swimmers.
Yeah.
Like that's really special. So that was super cool, and I love Speedo. They're a great brand. They're all I've ever raced in, and yeah, the other brands that have come with that's been super cool. Like I guess I never really imagined that swimming would be like my career.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I always was like, well, I'm going to do it through high school and then I'll do it in college. Then I'll probably just have to retire because I probably won't be able to make a living off of swimming. Like I just never really, you know.
You
like,
never really thought about it.
yeah, when you think of professional athletes, you think of like baseball players, football players, basketball players, soccer players for you guys, whatever. or
Soccer.
Football. Yeah.
Football for us.
Yeah. And so yeah, you don't really ever think of swimmers as like having means to like live on their own. And so the fact that like I'm financially independent and like my parents don't help me out and like I'm an independent girly, I don't know, it's really
Yeah.
cool to think about like how
And-
far I've come. And
You're doing all of this too because of like all the years that you put in on since you were like 8 years old.
that's
7
very
years
true.
old.
Yeah, it's a career that was built on like a decade of work starting from like a super young age, which is an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't really start on their career path until they're like 18 years old.
Yeah. So it's
that's an
like
interesting point.
yeah, like swimmers low-key deserve more than like
Yeah.
more than like what you guys get, but that's so amazing. I think slowly it's starting to become
Yeah.
you know.
Brick by brick, it's coming together. Speedo, I loved like creating my own swimsuit line with them. That was super fun. Because it was a super like long and creative process. I started talking with them about like what I wanted my suit designs to be in like June of 2023, and then they didn't drop till August of 2024, so it was a super long thing. Yeah, I also loved like the custom goggles that I made with Speedo.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I love the colorway of that too, like the pink and the orange. So I love doing that. And then I really liked my jewelry line that I did with Local Eclectic, because they made me like, or they allowed me to like make these pieces that were like super personal to me and like had a story behind them. So that was super cool. And then like, I don't know, I feel like it turns into like memorabilia that I'll have forever, which is super
Yeah,
cool to like hopefully
yeah.
tell my kids about one day. Those are the only like specific projects like pertaining to me that I've done, but like I'm like an Omega athlete now, which is like
my
super
God.
cool to me. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, like I'm super proud of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to give my stepmom an Omega watch for Christmas. Like that's like super
That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, and I'm like, because my parents have given so much to me in the sport, they've sacrificed so much, so then it feels really good to like kind of go full circle and then be able to like take care of them back, you know, and like show my
Yeah.
appreciation. So I don't know, I'm very blessed and grateful that like these partnerships that I've created like through my hard work in swimming has allowed me to do all of these things. And yeah.
I want you to describe a day in your life after you're like done swimming. Like, how do you think that would look like in your future? Like,
God.
what job would you be doing? Or like, I don't know, what would you be doing ideally?
Yeah. Okay. So I hope that like when I'm done swimming, I continue to do like public speaking where like I go and like tell my story to like a corporation or something, like, you know, and just like, because you know how
Like workshops and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
even
'cause-
Bob does it.
yes, because people do that all the time, right? And like I feel like people really like to do it, and then people like to listen to things like that. So I would love to do that when I'm retired swimming.
Yeah.
And then I'm also really passionate about Learn to Swim. I guess that's another brand that I'm partnered with. I'm partnered with Foss Swim School, which is the school that I learned to swim at.
That's so cool.
Which is a super cool full circle thing too. But I'm really like, I'm passionate about Learn to Swim just because swimming, and you guys can relate to this too, like we've never felt unsafe in the water.
Yeah.
Like ever.
never.
And that's such a privilege because so many people drown every single year. So many people avoid swimming at all costs because they're scared of it, because they don't know how to save themselves if something goes wrong, you know? And so thinking about that, I've realized like, wow, I'm very blessed and privileged, and I want to like use my resources to give back. And so I've created this scholarship with Foss Swim School that like provides free swimming lessons to families who couldn't otherwise afford it. And so I'd love to continue doing work with like the USA Swimming Foundation and Foss Swim School to like create more scholarships and create like more buzz about like how important Learn to Swim is. So I would hope it's like a mix of like motivational speaking and then stuff with like Learn to Swim. So that would be my career, and so I guess that wouldn't be a desk job necessarily. It'd probably involve more travel. I love traveling, so I'd be doing a lot of that. I think exercise is another thing that I'm like super passionate about, but I can't really explore it because we're so busy with swimming. But like I love taking walks. I would love to get into Pilates. I love the idea of, but I've never done it, yoga and like different things like that, like cycling classes, spin classes. Like I love running too. I did that a lot during COVID. And so I think I would love to like explore different routes of like exercise, just because I think it's like a good form of, I don't know, kind of self-expression, and it's a good way to burn off like not even just energy, but like a lot of different things.
Like emotion.
Yes, like, emotion. It gives you time to think, and like I always feel great after I do it. So I always want that to be like a core piece of my life, and I'm expanding from there. But I think I'm grateful that I've found a big passion in things like motivational speaking and Learn to Swim outside of swimming. Because again, even a year ago, I was like, I'm a swimmer and like that's it, and I don't know what else I'm interested in. So yeah.
It's just so cool that like how you changed as so scared to speak in public, and like swimming and like all of these things like kind of forced you into you know, becoming more, you know, outgoing. Speaking of outgoing, I want to know,
Good segue.
I want to know your experience on the Jake Paul podcast.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I want to know about like how did he reach out, because I was talking to Dennis. I was like, imagine like waking up and maybe seeing like Jake Paul is like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? Like, how was that whole experience?
It was a crazy way that it happened, actually. So I was in Paris with my agent and my agent's daughter. And it was right after the Olympics. It was like August 6th maybe, and swimming ended the 4th. And my agent, she's a badass woman. She has so many connections. She literally knows everyone on the planet. And so she...
Give me her number.
Exactly. Like, she's so cool. But so she knew the owner of this really nice restaurant in Paris, and so she was like, I want you to have dinner here with me and my daughter tonight, like it'll be super fun. And she's like, bring your medals. Like, I told the owner that you're coming, like he wants to take a picture with you and the medals. And I was like, sure, that's no problem. And so then I pull up outside and she's like, okay, Regan, put your medals on and walk inside with them. And I was like,
She knows how to do it.
yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that is so embarrassing. Like, I don't want to be, I've never really been a showboat. Like, I'm not really someone to be like, look at me. Like, I don't like to draw attention to myself.
Yeah.
And she was like, Regan, like, trust me on this. This is how you meet people. This is how doors get open for you. You want people to notice you. You're in Paris. It's during the second week of the Olympic Games. Like, if you walk in wearing your Olympic gold and silver medals, people are going to, like, network. And we argued probably for 15 minutes. And she was like, I'm not taking no for an answer. We'll sit out here all night if we need to. Like, that's the kind of woman she is, but she's so great. And so finally she wins the argument because she doesn't lose anything. She's also a lawyer, so she's a bad bee. Yeah. And so then I put them on, I walk in, and literally the very first person I see in the eating area is Jake Paul and his girlfriend Yuta Leardom. And I was like,
it's crazy.
He didn't recognize me, but he noticed me
Recognize
first
your medals
because I walked in with the medals. And so he was like, holy shit, are those all yours? And I was like, you're Jake Paul, like, holy crap. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, and he had like 2 bodyguards with him too. And so like normally I think his bodyguards were like very like, no, don't talk to him, don't come up to him. Because I ended up seeing later on in the dinner, we weren't sitting at the same table, but if people tried to come up to him, the bodyguards would like shoo them away. But they didn't shoo me away, I guess, because Jake immediately was like, those are like Olympic medals. So the medals saved me. So I have to thank my agent, even like as arrogant as it looked. And so, yeah, he wanted to try the medals on and hold them. And yeah. And if y'all know his girlfriend, she's like a world champion speed skater. Yeah. And so she's also an Olympic silver medalist. And so she has the Winter Games coming up. And so she was so great too, and very understanding of like what I had gone through and whatever. So that was great to meet her too. But yeah, then he was like, yeah, we're filming our podcast tomorrow. If you want to be on it, like, that'd be great. And we were like, holy shit, like, okay. So that's literally how all that came about. So he literally said, like, we met him at like midnight at that restaurant, and then I was on his podcast at like noon the next day.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Did he like follow you on Instagram and stuff?
Yes, he does. I don't know if he still does, so I don't want to be.
Don't
like,
even check.
Yeah, I don't want to check. He did at some point. He and Yuta both did at some point. Yeah,
That's
and I
so
was like,
cool.
wow. He was, and I have to say, he was an incredibly nice and humble guy. I'd say that the way that he comes across on his podcast and on YouTube is exactly the kind of guy he is in real life. Like,
that's good.
he's an interesting guy, but he's not rude, he's not mean. Like, he just will kind of like ask pretty blunt questions sometimes, but like, he was a very nice guy. Like, honestly, I was very impressed. And then Yuta was great too. She was super nice, super sweet, very mature, and I think they balanced each other pretty well. So that was like
That's so
crazy. I don't even know.
Dream.
Yeah.
Of course, they have it in Paris too. Like,
Yeah. So,
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask you that because I was really like, wow. It's
Sure.
asking me about
literally, I was like, oh my god, that is like. Okay, so let's do some like little like rapid fire fun questions. Is Regan Smith married?
Oh my god.
And I wanted to flip that question and ask like, who was little Regan crushing on when she was watching the Olympics on TV?
Oh. Probably Ryan Lochte.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's
I
a good
remember
one.
in 2012 I was really obsessed with him, and I was into his like reality show. I thought he was so cute, and
That's a
I
good
loved
one.
that he was kind of like the underdog to Michael. 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone loves an underdog, and by no means is Lochte an underdog. I mean, he has an incredible career under his
Like
belt.
American media.
Yeah. Yes, American media sucks with that, but I suppose compared to Michael Phelps, anyone's an underdog. So I was like, wow, I love this man. Like, this is great. So probably him.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mine was there's this guy who won the 200 breast. He was Hungarian. His name was Jurta Dani,
Okay.
and he was so cute. Like, I'm gonna show you a picture after this.
I have to say the other person that I don't know if I wouldn't say I had a crush on, but I respected so much and really liked and always rooted for. I don't want to butcher his name, but he's a Hungarian swimmer who's like legendary.
Chalotzi?
Yes.
Yes.
Like,
The bald.
He was bald. Yes, always. I
Yeah.
really admired him a lot.
Yeah.
This was mine.
Yeah.
He swam till like 30 years old.
Oh, he is cute.
This was mine.
Yeah. I didn't
He
know he
was
was in
so
Tokyo,
cute.
actually.
What was yours? You did say.
I don't think I had one.
Damn.
Wow. That's sad.
But he was, what, can you say his name again?
Which one? Chalotzi?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Oh
him?
my god, I can't say, so I'm not gonna butcher it
Just
by
say-
trying to say it.
Just
I
say-
always said Laszlo Czech, but
Okay, that's a good one. No,
Is it?
yeah. Last
Okay.
chat. Yeah.
okay. He was passing out medals in Budapest for one of the events that I had won. In Budapest, they did men and women together on the podium,
Yeah.
so he was handing out the men's medals.
Oh.
And I wanted to meet him and introduce, like, I so badly wanted to shake his hand and I didn't get to.
Oh,
but I
that
literally, like,
sucks.
Yeah, it has to be
He's
on
really
men's
cool. Yeah, and
he's amazing.
the honestly the most monumental moment I think that like it's like okay the universe had to have like had this come together was when Michael Chelazzi and was it Ryan Chad Leclos?
I can't, maybe.
I think it was Leclos. It wasn't the 100 or 2
It was in the
fly.
100.
In the
No,
100
it was on the
fly.
100. They all tied for silver.
Yes,
Yeah,
in Rio,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
Joseph Schooling won, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
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 Guy, right?
No, the Singapore guy.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
Crazy trio.
Jesus was there for that one.
Very, very much so.
And then the last question that people asked apparently are what are some interesting facts about Regan Smith? Like, do you have any facts? Like, I don't know. I used to play the trumpet. That's like a quick fact.
I feel like I don't have much. I mean, I'm left-handed.
Oh, that's
good.
Me too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, everyone's so surprised when I say that.
Cute. Yeah, same. I'm the youngest of 4. My dad's remarried, so
Oh shit, 4.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
What's your favorite food?
sandwiches, hamburgers, or pokey.
I love Pokemon.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
That was a good one. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay, so those are the fun facts. The last thing I want you to leave our audience with is I asked this from Olivia too, is can you leave us and the audience with a little love note to the people that are listening and watching? Like something that you would want them to like resonate with or like leave them with.
I would say it probably goes back to the like, and again, I feel like I say cliches all the time, but they're cliches for a reason, right? when we were talking about like how when you're like talking to yourself in a negative way, you would never speak to your best friend that way at all. Like you're your best friend's biggest hype woman, right? Or man, whoever's watching this. Hi, Ilya.
Literally.
And so I think what I've learned this year is like I used to be so dependent on other people for like my happiness and like to fill my cup, and like I was just so codependent on people in the past. And I think I really learned like what independence truly means this year. And like I learned that like, yeah, people can add to my life, but the only person who will always have my back and who I can always depend on is myself. So why would I treat myself badly? And I'd heard that advice so many different times, but you're only ready to accept it and listen to it when you're ready to. And I think I was finally ready to this year. But so basically I learned like you have to be your own best friend. You have to enjoy your own company to succeed in life. And you have to speak to yourself the way that you would speak to someone in your life who you really love and care about. You can't be that negative devil voice in your head. Like you have to be the light for yourself, because ultimately even your best friend can't fully do that for you. Even your like physical best friend, like you have to be that for yourself like 100% of the time. So I think, I don't know, I would say that would be a little note that I would leave behind, is like you always have to treat yourself with kindness. And again, as I'm saying this out loud, I've heard this said so many times, and I would kind of just roll my eyes at it and be like, yeah, okay, but like how do I do that? And again, it's like I feel like you just figure it out at some point. And I hated myself for so long. Like last year I really struggled with liking myself, and like I just wanted to like distract myself and like not think about like myself, I guess. And I think it was, again, going back to like the light at the end of the tunnel of like going through the storm to get to the rainbows, whatever. It's like you have to go through all of that to really like dig down deep and get to know yourself, and then come out of it and be like, I went through all that. I'm such a bad bitch. Like, and I was there for myself like every step of the way.
Self-love.
Self-love. Cliche to the max.
But we love it. We love it.
Yeah, once you're really able to unpack it, I think it's very powerful. And I didn't figure out how to do that for a really long time. But that's my love note.
It's definitely super powerful.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I think I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, I really loved this too.
And it was really fun. And I'm so glad that you were able to open up so much and like share so much value. Because I think like with such, like you're so young, but experience behind you, like even if we don't even count swimming, like that's like still so much experience and like things that you've learned throughout your journey. So I want to say thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you, Leah, for having me.
Thank you. And I wish you the best time in Texas.
Thanks.
And we will definitely see you again.
Yeah,
so
I'll be back in like 2.5 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be soon.
We'll see you again.
No worries. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to say goodbye to the viewers. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next time with another episode. Bye. Bye.